What is up, everybody? This is Marshall Lee of DonkeyJawProjects.com, and today we're going to talk about starting to write comics, beginning your writing comics journey, and even if you're already have been doing it for a while, maybe you'll learn a thing or two. Because I don't know, I'm just going to share whatever I can think of that I know. And I think a friend of mine's going to come and share some stuff too. A friend of mine named Jason, aka Fogbreaker Studios. What's up, dude?
What's up, y'all? How's it going? Oh man,
Let
what's
people
up?
know who you are and where they can find you,
All
man.
right, my name's Jason Alexander. I'm the guy at Fogbreaker Studios. I'm only the guy because it's just me. But writer. I'm trying to dabble into the art side of it a little bit, which I do enjoy. But mostly writing, doing a book called Ransom Notes. Got a challenge coming up, and I also have a couple of other little things, but we'll get to it if we get to it. But what are we talking about today, Marsha?
We'll definitely get to it. We're talking about writing, man. And
Yeah.
I want to just acknowledge that we have some cool people in the chat.
Hey, what's up, cool people?
We got Floyd Looney. I have stories, but have no real idea how to do a comic script. Well, maybe you'll get a few ideas tonight.
There you go.
We have Frank in here. That hasn't stopped me yet.
Frank is like the howling Mad Murdoch of the AAA team.
Yeah, totally. Mighty Potato is hyped. I'm glad you're hyped, and I like your name. Clay's in here. What's up, dude? And let's see, we got Acid Lace. Everybody's in here. All our friends.
What's going on, y'all? What's up?
Hello, AAA crowd. What's up? Let's see.
Ronnie's in the building. What's up, Ronnie?
We got Setsuko. How you doing? And Dale. I'm here to learn. Well, we're here to share what we know. I was going to say teach, but we're not really here to teach.
I was going to say, I'm kind of here to learn too. So
yeah, we'll probably figure it out. We don't even know how to write. We're going to figure it out right now. No,
we'll all figure it out.
We know some things, and we'll figure some stuff out. I like this comment: Marsh's stream or CNN debate. I can't vote, but I vote Marsh's.
Thanks, dude. That's what's up.
Let's see. Julianne Larson? Juliana Larson. Cool. Okay. Cool. All right. It's a little awkward chat moment here.
There you go.
Let's see. Apparently she votes Marsha's stream instead of CNN debate. Cool. I like that vote.
There you go.
Hey, I know what it's like to wanna duck the craziness. And again, Ronnie's here. What's up?
Ronnie, what up?
Let's see what else we got. Zachary here. Everybody's in here. Johan's in here. Thanks for hanging out, Jules. So we're gonna get into this topic here. And we're gonna talk about a bunch of things, but I'm gonna start by saying writing in general is tough. I went on a journey. No. There was one time where I was like, okay, I did a couple mini comics, but these stories are just whatever. I made a bullet point list and then I drew them.
Right.
Cool. That and there's nothing wrong with that at all. I still kind of do that, but
yeah.
But it's gotten kind of bigger. But there, I was at a point where I'm just like, you know what, I need to learn how to actually write. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read a book, maybe 2 books, maybe three. Well, I'll read 3 books, and I'm gonna learn how to write. I'll take a month. I'll learn how to write. I'll be good, right? And so I did that. I listened to some Audible books. Hashtag not sponsored. No, I don't know. I watch these videos. They always say that. Anyways, but and I was like, this is cool. Okay. I'm learning some cool things. I'm learning some things. And you know what? I got to the end and I'm like trying to try some of the things and I'm like, this is really hard. I don't think I know what I'm doing, even though I read a
Does
bunch of
not
books.
fit. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so it's what I came to the conclusion after, the month I was supposed to learn how to write was this thing's gonna be a journey and it's probably gonna take the rest of my life. But I think I
Absolutely.
can
Yeah.
learn enough to go, at least.
Yep. Yeah.
Well,
I think you got there.
yeah, I'm getting there. I mean that was a while ago, so I've
Yeah.
definitely progressed for sure. What about you, man? Like what was like your first time like trying to say, all right, I'm going to try to write? It doesn't even have to be a comic book, but like when did you first like try, and what was your experience like?
Okay. So first starting was it was basically Bible study. When I was 6, you were required to you were given like a section of the Bible. You had to write an introduction and a conclusion, and it was like public speaking and like reading comprehension, but it was like pretty directed. So
Mhm.
that's where my writing for, I guess that's where I would say my writing for creativity had its, that was when I first did it. But
Mhm.
as far as comics go, I ended up with a friend when I was in my late teens that was an amazing comic artist. And I loved what he did, and I knew that like I couldn't compete with him artistically. So I'm like, okay, well, if we do something together, maybe I can write. And it was just like a hodgepodge of every movie that I had seen that summer, all the cool scenes, and I figured that they would all look cool in comic book art. But
Sounds like a good
you know,
plan.
yeah, it's like, what do I like? And then how do I turn that into something else that I don't have to draw? So,
Nice.
it was, that's where it kind of started. And then I just kind of put it down after that. But I've always written, I've always enjoyed some type of creative writing, whether it was through, Bible reading when I was younger. And, now it's, once my life shifted, I knew I wanted to write something. And then it just kind of went back to what I've always thought was cool. And that's when I've started this beginner's journey of writing,
Mhm.
is with deciding to write a comic book and having no clue of how to do it, and then realizing how difficult it was to take prose paragraphs and turn them into comic pages, because it's not the same. And that's another conversation that I was having actually with Aaron a little bit ago, that it's hard to hand somebody 13 pages of novel writing and say draw it, because there's too much going on, and it's two different worlds.
Yeah.
So I had to learn what I needed to know about comics in order to start making real comics. And just like you said, a lot of reading. You got to read things you don't like. You got to read things from people who call themselves experts, and they may be experts, but if you're not an expert, a lot of that stuff will just sail over your head so far that it's like you've wasted your time reading it almost. So
Mm.
there's learning and there's doing, and
Yeah.
a lot of when it comes to writing for comics is doing. You have to do it until you figure out what makes sense to you. A lot of the starting points are good starting points, but you won't use the ones that you think you will, and you'll always use the ones that you don't. that's
Mm.
that's what I've learned to this point, because this has only been, what, 18 months for me, maybe a little bit less than. So we're always learning, we're always growing, and I'm at the beginning of being seasoned. I guess that's the best way to put it, because
I like
I
that.
know what I know. I know what I know. I know where
Yeah.
I'm strong, and I know what I need to improve on. But when you can't do something, those conversations can't come up. You'll beat yourself over the head and you won't do anything. So you got to get not good before you can make a run at being good.
It's a good point.
Yep.
So wow, okay. So what is I guess we could start with what books have, or maybe name one book that you read, or part of a book that you read that really did kind of spark something, or kind of help you to have a better idea of how to approach this.
Oh, Identity Crisis.
Yeah.
Identity Crisis is probably one of my favorite comic books because it was in DC. It was in the DC universe, but it was story driven. It was 100% story driven, and even the artwork, you could tell that it was directed. I guess that's the best way to really say it. Like, it wasn't, okay, well, I got 15 cool pages that I haven't used. Like, this was like an organic murder mystery in the DC universe, and powers didn't matter really. This was how these characters were affected by Sue Dibney being murdered. And a lot of those characters were like the B team. And I didn't know, I was not emotionally invested in one of those characters before that story started. But, it was very heavy for DC, especially at the time, where you had Dr. Light, who was a monster before he was lobotomized by the good guys. You had the Atom, who had to come to terms with how that story ended. And you had Ralph Dibney, who's this fantastic detective, like on par with Batman, but he's powerless to figure out what's going on with who killed his wife, but also his wife just died. Like, separate what happened. Like, his wife just died. And it was like, to read that book and then to read Superman in the early 2000s, man, it was like, I can see why nobody likes this stuff. But it was like, once you read that and you say, okay, good writing can prevail anything. I know I shouldn't say good writing. Good storytelling can prevail over anything. And so that was when I said, you know what? A comic can exist like Ransom Notes. A comic can exist that is heavy and fun, but not, and there's no superheroes. You know what I mean? Like, because
right.
If you're learning about comics, you think superheroes. That's your gateway. That's all you know about comic books. Oh, you mean superheroes or Archie? No, it doesn't have to be either one of those things, but it can be both of those things. So it's finding your way. Like, I'm all over the place, but it's like once I start talking about writing, man, it's like I don't know, man. It's the stitches. Like, it's all the stitches.
Yeah. It's really interesting though, like how the thing that attracted to you to it was at least something that wasn't so superhero-y, and that's, I don't know, like, that's cool, because to me, I feel like I grew up on crazy characters within the realm of superhero-ness, but kind of twisted it, but it wasn't like, the problem is the stories weren't that good generally.
Exactly.
And I always just loved the medium of comic books, like, so much.
Sure.
But I didn't think it was living up to its potential. And I wanted better stories. But I also wanted to continue having awesome art. I want my cake and eat it too,
Exactly. Yeah.
And there shouldn't be any there. You shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't not want that. Like, why can't you in a creative medium? That should be the goal anyways, you know, to have your cake and eat it too.
It's
You want the
exactly. I was
whole
gonna say it's
package.
spreading out. It's That's it. Why wouldn't you? So did you vibe with the superheroes exclusively when you were younger? Like what
I
was the
mean,
first different writing that you enjoyed?
the first different writing that I enjoyed, and I mean, really, the only writing that I enjoyed was probably Sin City.
Yep.
Um, you know, that was, you know, it was still action, but you know, the art was appealing in a weird way for me because at that time, that's not the kind of art that you know I was drawn to.
Yeah.
Um, but it was very dynamic. And it there was something amazing about that work that Miller did. Like it's just it's great, and you know, and it was way darker than I tend to enjoy or
Sure.
like, you know,
Yep.
for me, you know, I'm not a big noir kind crime type. I don't have, but you know, Sin City is it it breaks genre, it breaks boundaries. You know, it's not just crime noir. You know, it's more
Yeah.
than that. You
Yeah,
know,
because it's like there's plenty of superpower characters in that universe that it's stylized, but that's not what real people do. Like Marv was almost functionally immortal for a while, but the writing was like, I'm sorry I'm so palsy, but I'm just trying to, it was like syrup. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like you have like this big bowl of vanilla, chocolate and vanilla ice cream, and you just like the dialogue. It was just like just layered over it. Perfect. It was just there. That was a really cool book. Yeah,
yeah.
I enjoy Sin City.
So, you know, and it was the first time I saw like good writing in a comic, you know. Part of the problem is I didn't read the right kind of comics, you know. I read Image and the creators what they did before they went to Image.
Right.
You know, I guess I read Claremont when I read X-Men with Jim Lee, but the
Who knew?
writing, I wasn't there for the writing
Right.
really
Yeah.
at that
Exactly. Yeah.
time.
Yeah. How
So
far are Wolverine's claws gonna stick out on this splash page? That's what I'm here for.
pretty much, yeah. So
Yep.
um you know, it is what it is, and I'm still searching for good comics, you know. There's a lot of comics that I enjoy. Like it doesn't have like Russ Leach, who is on second, 2 more days left for Only Death
Two
Can
more
Save
days.
Us, and
Yeah.
still needs to get to his thing. Go check out Only Death Can Save Us at Indiegogo.
For real,
But
y'all.
Russ always says, uh, you know, I kind of have he has like a superficial taste. Like he can watch Transformers and fully enjoy it. Where
Yeah.
even I do kind of have that. I have that side of me, but even I have a hard time with Transformers. But but there's a lot of stuff like I love actually the prequels, the Star Wars prequels. I don't really love the
Yep.
latest ones, but I love the early ones. Um, you know, so
Phantom Menace was an underrated movie. It was really, really good. I enjoyed Phantom Menace.
and I realized though that the deficiencies in those movies too, but I didn't really care. When I went into the theater, I was in the world that I loved from the old movies, and it felt like
Sure.
it to me, you know,
Yep.
and that's all I really wanted.
Yep.
So that being said, you know, writing is it's something that we can kind of observe. You know, we can see the quality when it's good.
Yep.
Story is something that we all actually know pretty intimately, whether you're a creative um, person within that realm or not. Um, but when you sit down and try to do what you know, like intuitively, that's a whole different story.
Right.
And what kind of what how would you say like you kind of approach writing so far?
Um, Writing is relatability to me, and it doesn't really matter what it is, and it's not. I don't mean that in the sense of causes, but I do mean it in the sense of there's always something. There's always a common thread that all of us share, and if you can hit that chord, it doesn't really matter the instrument. You hit it. Perfect example of that is last Friday, me and Ronnie were reviewing the Bernie Wrightson Frankenstein book, and there was a period in that book where Frankenstein was talking to the monster, and the way that they were talking in my mind, I was like, huh, Frank. I was like, the monster is a Jehovah's Witness too, and it's like that had nothing to do with the story, and I was probably the only person who read that and felt like that, but I was even more connected to the characters at that point because it was just a little relatable moment. And it even made me go back and read a few pages before a little bit deeper, and and I read it a little bit more intently after. And that's what it is it's a point of relatability. And so that's what I try to capture, because if you can let somebody's guard down, then you can tell them a story about anything. You can just get past that outer layer of, okay, I don't like character A. Some people don't like Superman. Some people it's Batman. Some people it's this character or that character. But if you can put them in a situation that makes them say, oh, huh, I've been through something like that. At that point, the character is secondary. Now I can tell you a story. Now you're not flipping pages. Now I can tell you a story because now we relate to each other. So now we can have a conversation. And that's always the best parts. The best parts are casual, and the best parts are comfortable. Whether it's heavy or not, the best parts are comfortable. How do you accomplish that? And you have to make it relatable.
That's interesting. And yeah, especially to me, I get I get into like what are the I really like the idea of themes, having kind of one central idea that is happening, and I think that again, like what you're saying, the relatable, I think that's where it really is important. That having the probably one of the first books, I mean, I read a couple books about writing way a long time ago, but when I was really starting to dig in, one of the first books I read about writing was Invisible Ink.
Yeah.
And it's really good, and it talks about there's two ways, thinking of like a sculpture. There's two ways to put together a sculpture. One way is you take, a block of clay, and you
Right.
start cutting away pieces, chipping away. And I think there's like a famous, Michelangelo quote, like it's like a block of marble or something. And he's like, you just keep chipping away until your image is like there. I forget how he says it, but like,
Yeah.
you just take
Almost
everything
like it's
off
already
like
there, and
you
you
take
you just got to
everything
find it.
off that isn't the figure of David. Like, it's
Simple.
interesting.
Right.
Um, now, I think that it's obviously not that simple because I can do that, and it's not going to look like the statue of David. But I might have like Frank Miller's version of the statue of David in there, but
Right.
um,
Exactly.
but
You
that
can
being
make it
said,
perfect your way.
the other way to sculpt is you create like an armature, and you kind of put the arms out. It's like you create the gesture or whatever, and
Sure.
it's all bendy wires and whatnot, and then you start throwing some clay onto it. You start building out the form around it and stuff like that, and then you add, and then eventually you start subtracting a little. You add, you subtract, and it's actually a much more efficient way to build a sculpture. I mean, the other way isn't wrong. No way is wrong. Everybody's got their
Right.
own way of doing it. But it's the same thing with story. A lot of people will, and again, this way is not wrong, but I personally am really interested in efficiency, and I'm also really interested in getting to the core of the story right away,
Sure.
um, before I really start to expand. So, you know, there is that way of you have an idea. Okay, I got this cool idea, and I'm just gonna write, NaNoWriMo the crap out of this thing. We're gonna
Right.
freaking write, hundreds and thousands of words, and then
Yep.
later we're gonna go back and start taking stuff away. We're gonna start editing it, have different drafts, whatever. I don't want to do all that work.
Right. No,
I mean,
absolutely.
and
And
I like the idea of, so with the armature, it's like, okay, now you want to find that main theme. What is
right.
the progress of like a specific character, and then you build around that. Now, okay, since I have this character going here and they believe this lie, what characters do I surround them with that can help them figure it out, that can challenge what they're thinking, that
Right.
can, so it's a kind of a different way, a little bit more efficient. Some people don't like that way though, but that's fine.
You can do it your own way.
Yeah.
So this was my hard lesson with comics, and trying to learn everything pretty much fairly close to the same amount of time.
Hmm.
Even if you write, it might be a good idea to like draw out a couple of pages, um, draw according to your script, because you will realize how much extra, because it might be important parts of your story, but it's a lot extra if you're writing for comics. So it almost is better to do it the way that you said. What's my big action? What do I know? What's my core? What is the point of this story? Get that down, and then add. You don't look at a bottle of ketchup and say, I can get 681 French fries covered from this bottle of ketchup. No, you make the ketchup. I mean, you make the fries, and then you add the ketchup that you need. You don't need, like, as a writer, you need to build, and you need to establish. You almost need, like, I feel like you need to establish mood. That's the first thing you need to do, because if the mood is wrong, it doesn't really matter who's saying what or how many of them are saying it. Like, why is this conversation necessary? And what does it, like with comics, what does this conversation look like? Is this 3 pages of this character's face, then that character's face, and then this character standing up and talking, and that character, getting up and walking around? Because who wants to read that?
Yeah.
Just wait till page 17 and then it starts. Okay, well, now you got 5 pages left in a regular sized comic. No, like, it's a lot of moving parts, because writing for comics, as you know, they're very different animals. So figure out what looks cool and then write that. No matter what the story is, like, figure out what looks cool and write that, and then you can navigate a script. But if
Well,
you want to write a novel, write a novel.
I think it's interesting too, because what you're saying, like I actually was really intrigued by Jeremy Burleigh's way of writing. When I did the interview with him, and he's kind of got, and this is something that's really, and I like how you said, even if you're a writer, start drawing some of these things out if you can, because that's why writing comics is so cool, especially if you're an artist. It can be really interesting because you don't approach it the same way a prose writer would do.
Sure.
You can draw certain things, or you can, you might be more on the visual end of things, and like a lot of people who are comic book artists and who write, they don't even necessarily create full scripts, and if they do, they're nothing anybody could read and translate.
Right. Right.
And this idea, this whole thing, like I like how when I hear somebody talk about doing thumbnails for comics, you know, I go back to the Image guys. They had the comic book greats videos, and I watched how they
Yep.
did it, and they'd make these little squares and draw these little stick figures, and I always hated doing that. Like I I don't even understand my own little stick figures half the time, and I just feel
Right.
like I need more room to figure things out, and it just never worked so great for me.
Yep.
But Jeremy had this way of where he kind of wrote the story, but like when he went to like thumbnail stage, his thumbnail is a sheet of paper and there's writing on it, there's drawings on it, there is some layout things with boxes, and then there's maybe a panel or two panels where he's like, okay, I want to get this shot and that shot, and it's not like meant to be like it's more of like getting, like you said, almost like the feel of what this page is going to look like
Right.
and what the flow is going to be. And I like
Exactly.
that because then I don't have to draw every panel, because like the way I draw the panel in the thumbnail, a lot of times I just change exactly what I change what I was going to do anyways when I get to the page. So but
Sure. Right.
there are key moments that I really want to hit, so it would be
Yep.
nice to just draw those a little bit.
Yep. Yeah,
So
I've started to write in panels. As far as like, I'll say panel one, this is what I would like to see in panel one. And it's more for me, like, even if I was to hand it over to an artist, I expect them to add their vision to it. But I have to write what I see, but I have to make sure that what I see is logical for a comic, because that's what we're here for, right?
mm,
So how do you get there? And it's just like you were saying, it's the landmarks. What am I going to see on my way there? Okay, you're going to pass by a windmill and a barn, and you're going to be at a four-way intersection, and then you need to take a right. You need to be able to see those things, because I don't know roads, especially like up here in Maine. I don't know roads. But if you tell me where the Dunkin' Donut is that's across from the Irving station, now I can see it in my head. Now I know exactly how to get where you're telling me. So
yeah.
you can write. And let me tell you, we write. Like, if y'all think I talk a lot, I write. I write a lot. But it doesn't always mean anything. And it doesn't, it's like I have to do it as part of my process sometimes. But I'm trying to learn that we have we are movie makers that don't have to buy cameras. We can buy paper and pen and we can make a whole movie. We can direct it, we can produce it, we screenplay it, we script it, we storyboard it, and then we can make it exactly what we want it to be. So we have two sides. As a writer in comics, you have to have a writing side. You got to make scripts. You gotta be able to do that part. But you also have to be able to visualize, even if you're not drawing it. You have to be able to visualize what you're drawing, and that part is the tricky part, because everything that we say sometimes counts. Everything that we say should have some merit, but we don't have a moving script. We are fully conductors of people's eyeballs. So I got to be able to keep your eyeball long enough to get you to turn the page. And as a writer, how do you accomplish that? You got to be able to see what you want your words to look like. So you have to tightrope walk, and you got to learn. Like I said, it's reading, but what are you reading? Yes, you can read books on writing, but read comics. If you want to write comics, read comics.
Yeah.
And read comics that would not pass under your nose, and read comics that you love to read, but you have to read them critically, because we win with emotion sometimes, but sometimes we like things that aren't that great. It's like, boy bands, like like people love boy bands because there's an emotional response, and the writing is a formula. That's writing. Their songs carry a formula, and the formula is pop, catchy, quick. It doesn't really matter what the words are,
Yeah.
but again, you write for mood. You don't write for words every single time. You write for mood. How can I get this person to, what can I do to get a smile on this person's face in 3 panels or less because my story is fun? Or what can I do to get a smile on this person's face because this story is not fun? And now I've taken them up here, and now I get to bring them down low, but they feel it. Like they feel how low you bringing them. And that's, I'm telling you, like this stuff is awesome when you want to do it. So
what brings a smile to my face is the fact that Fogbreaker likes boy bands.
That's not exactly what I said. But NSYNC had a run, and I grew up on New Edition, so it is what it is.
I'll tell you, Justin Timberlake is actually a pretty talented dude.
Absolutely.
And yeah, there was one album from NSYNC and some stuff from Justin Timberlake that I freaking loved, actually, because he was using a lot of kind of hip hop techniques mixed with pop.
Yep.
And it's actually pretty good. Like, I don't know. So I don't know.
Justin Timberlake's first solo album, A1. It was a really solid album. But again, doesn't really matter what it is. If you hit the marks, you hit the marks. So it hit the marks. So
yeah, totally.
Yes, nobody wants a story about people washing dishes every day. But
yeah. Although that makes me, it's like one of those things. Well, you can't do this. What? Are you sure? Like now I'm about to make a story about that. I'm about to make the best like Eisner winning comic out of somebody.
Exactly. Hope you like aprons and hairnets, because here it comes.
Challenge accepted.
That's it, man. That's it. Like any can'ts, any shouldn'ts, it's gonna be hard. Push them, man. Push through them. Yes. Don't tell me what. I can do it. I can do it. I'll do it. That's cool. No, I'm joking, but yeah. How do you make it interesting? And I get that. Like buying Buffy Vampire script books for TV show help me. Huh. Yeah. That's pretty much it. You look through a camera lens when you're laying out a panel. That nails it. And Buffy was such a good show too. So it's like if you want to look to a TV show to help with writing, that's anything from that Buffy, Angel, Spike stuff. It had very, very solid points, and it was not a shocker to me to see how connected Joss Whedon would end up in comics, because it's all, you know what I mean? Like those are comic book stories, like 100%. So
yeah, and I mean, I think looking at other people's scripts, yeah, that sounds like a good thing to do. It's something that I've never done because I just don't feel like reading a full comic book script.
Sure. Right. Unless it's yours,
unless it's like a friend of mine's or something, and
right.
I want to like help them or whatever. But like, yeah, I don't know. But that being said, definitely TV shows that actually, there might be some that like I would love to read. I probably should look it up, like read like a Shonda Rhimes, Grey's Anatomy script or something, because those stories are great. Like, I mean, they keep it going and it keeps being interesting.
It's so funny because that's not my favorite show, but if it's on, I'll watch it because it's very well written. Like they keep your attention for sure.
Yep. So let's see. There's a lot of comments. I'll try to get to some of these. But one thing too is, we were talking about how like the doing the dishes thing could be challenging. That kind of brings me to this idea that Mr. Fogbreaker here has come up with, which, you know, if you've watched my channel long enough, you know that my my origins, if you were going to write Marshall Lee's like origin story, it would come from the depths of 100 days of making comics. And you know, that's kind of where I started. That's where, you know, Fogbreaker got some
Yeah,
start too.
it's where I cut
And
my teeth. Absolutely.
you know, that tends to be like, there have been a writer or two who've done it, but like for the most part it tends to be an artist driven
Yep.
or artist slash writer driven challenge. But Fogbreaker came up with a writer driven challenge. And why don't you talk a little bit
Absolutely.
about that, man?
Okay, so I I have one story that I write all the time. Like whether regardless of what else I'm working on, I have one story I write, but I always want to do other things. And I always wanted to see, am I good at writing this story now, or am I becoming a storyteller? So what I came up with was like just random prompts. Like I just went online and I just hit a random word generator and I wrote every fifth word until I had 31 words. And I said, okay, come October, instead of doing Inktober, I'm going to write a story for each one of these. And I'm going to limit it to a page so that I'm not committed to a ton of exposition and backstory. I can build a story around a word and see what it looks like. And I guarantee you, by the time I do that 15 times, my stories are going to be a little bit better at that. It's like gesture drawing, pretty much,
Hmm.
you know. And so then I was like, you know what? Maybe some of my friends want to do this, or maybe somebody who's just like poking around looking for something to tighten up. Maybe they can do it, or maybe somebody who doesn't know if they can write. Maybe this is a good like litmus test to see where you are. And so I created an open challenge. It's called a Fogbreaker Open, 31 days, 31 stories. There's facets of it that I'm cool with, and then there's like one one big thing that I didn't really think about when I started thinking about it that makes me light up, and that is like comic pages. Like, how can you do these as comic pages, and what happens when you find a teammate to do this with? So not only can you now you can tell a quick story, but you can now devote part of your time to just writing it. Just write the story. You can write it as a script. You can write it on a full page and then post it. Throw some art with it. Find a partner if you want, and just do the challenge however you want to do it. Peter Palmiotti says he's doing it. Fogtober. I kind of like it. I dig that a little bit.
That's awesome.
But you know, so I don't know. I think that this is going to be a cool challenge. I'm excited, you know, to hear that, you know, people like you might try it. Peter Palmiotti says he might try it. I'm doing it with a super dope artist that I know, you know, Aaron Guzman. Like,
Sweet.
It's going to be a pretty cool challenge. And so here's the thing. Productivity is what drives you. Productivity is what can like really take you to the next level, because it kind of gives you incentive to keep going. And that was the hard part of the hundreds for me, was being a slower visual artist. You get to day 17 and you're still working out, you know, on page 2, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to have a finished product by the end of the hundreds. But then like day 50 comes and you're like on page 4, and you're like, well, you know what I mean? So it's like you learn a lot through the hundreds, but I think that the hundreds is a artist challenge, because nobody wants to look at Instagram posts of scripts for 100 days. I don't even want to. So, you know, I just wanted to kind of I wanted to shorten it up, but I also wanted to do it in a way that you could see improvement and not be committed to like going back and fixing a plot hole. Because you make those when you write, and you write a big story, you miss things, and you want to do things different. So now it's like get in and get out. One day, do it. So I come up with this challenge. I put it up 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, whatever it was. And I start to say, you know what? I think I'm going to do it every quarter. I'm going to do it every 4 months. And if nobody does it, I'm still going to do it because it's going to keep me strong. It's going to keep my writing strong because it's going to make me sharper because I'm doing this like basically it's like high intensity interval training for writers.
Nice.
Because
I like that.
you know, you can do it all. I don't know. I think that the spirit of the challenge should be that you finish it in a day, because I can, you can wrap things up at any point, but can you wrap it up in a story? Can you wrap that story up in a page and be happy with it? And it's loose. That's the secret. I get, Marshall, this is not going to be a very cohesive video on my part, but it's like, it is just staying loose. Staying loose is the key for anybody who's trying to learn something. Because if you think about it too much, you're going to realize, or you're going to start thinking about things that you say you should be good at, that shouldn't even be on your radar yet. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be born and want to eat a steak. Because you know what I mean? You end up with a London broil and it's overcooked and you say, I hate steak. And you don't hate steak. You hate bad steak. We all hate bad steak. So it's like, what can you accomplish in a page? And there's nothing else. Tell a story in a page. No, you got to hit a middle, beginning, and an end. Leave it as a head scratcher, but finish it and go on to the next thing. It's just loose productivity in a positive way.
I like that. And, it reminds me of like just different classes I've had, in middle school, high school, things like that, with creative writing, or when the English teacher would ask us to do that kind of thing. And, I always loved it. I always thought it was fun. I still probably could dig up some things I wrote when I was a kid somewhere.
That's cool. Yeah.
And it's not great. It sucks, but but it was my little thoughts at that time, and
that's it. Yeah.
And it was always some weird, like, supernatural, like, thing that had action in it, and it probably didn't make much sense, but I liked doing that kind of just stream of consciousness type of writing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is something you could do here, just to get the exercise going. I think it's also kind of like like almost an idea generator. Play around in a world, for a little while, or that kind of thing, or try to come up, like you said, with like a cohesive mini story too, that kind of thing as well. I don't know. I'm excited. I want to try it, and I have so much on my plate right now, and it's like I'm like weighing it. Hopefully, I can at least do a few. Maybe I can.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just see what you think about it. I like I said, I think it's a great warm up for everybody, but this is a very tricky entry level challenge, because anybody can tell a story, but it's 31 days. It's 31 days. Like it's tall when you really when you step back and look at it. It's like it's a lot to bite off of. But yeah, I gotta deliver now because y'all know about it. It is so and I hope more people do it. So because it's good exercise. Just like the hundreds was like, get used to like being at the board for at least 30 minutes a day for 100 days straight. Sounds simple enough, but talk to me at day 40 if you start this like I did mine way too early. But I'm glad I did it. I wish that I attacked it just like this. I saw it and I did it. And so I think that this will work better for me in that regard.
Yeah.
No, it will be it will not be Fog Simber. It will be Foguary. I feel like I'm like a spirit Halloween store now, like, because it's just like we just throw fog in front of everything now, but I enjoy it. But yeah, I'm gonna do it 4 times a year. I think that kind of gives me time to do my other projects that I want to get to. But 4 times a year means that I'm like really dedicating myself to staying in shape to running a marathon at all times.
Yeah. And I like to throw fog in front of everything, just like Liefeld's feet too. So
Hey, you know what? It works. A flowy cape, a nice waft of fog. It all works.
Yeah. When
That's a
in
whole
doubt,
panel.
when in
As a
doubt,
writer,
vote fog.
yeah, exactly. A fog fills this room except for the top of these street lights. That's all you can see on this page. Turn the page, exactly, So 1 page down. I wrote a page for everybody just now. So
there you go.
it's I don't know, man. Like I'm excited about writing at all times, but I'm excited about this because this is output. Like, this is real output. I've been writing ransom notes since I started, but like by the end of October, I will have enough pages to put a book together. We all would. You know what I mean? Like, and if you can hold your stuff, man, that goes a long way. I keep my AAA anthology close by at all times, and I always get a kick out of other people grabbing it. I always get a kick out of other people grabbing it because sometimes if I'm like, we all talk like real people, and sometimes I'll be talking to my wife in front of the kids about what I want to accomplish with my writing, and I might say something like, well, I know I'm not that good yet, and my 10-year-old will come and pick this up. He's like, look, Dad, you're in this book, so you're fine, and it's just like that. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I am in a book, so it's like that pushes it through. So
that's awesome.
This productivity is the ultimate goal. It's not really money. Like, yes, money is a byproduct, but if you're producing, you can make money. If you got great ideas, you got great ideas. If you got great scripts for comic books, but they're in a Google Drive, you got scripts in a Google Drive. Find a way to produce them, and produce them no matter what you think your skill level is, because the only way to get better is by having a first. You can't just walk back in the house if you stumble. You got to dust off, call your boss, say, hey, I fell in the driveway, I'm going to be late to work. But then you still have to go to work. So what can keep you going to work? And it's producing. And I think that this challenge, no minimum word count. Just tell your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So your latest YouTube video that talks about this, correct?
Yeah, it's got just some kind of just like a general intro, and I post the prompt list up, which is also up on my Instagram. So
okay. So I just put the link to Fogbreaker's latest YouTube video.
Awesome. That's perfect. Yep.
And your Instagram as well in the description. And I'll put it in the chat here too, the Instagram, so that you guys can just immediately go over there and you can see what the prompts look like and stuff, and copy and paste it or whatever you need to do so you can, get involved.
One thing I do want to say, yes, the spirit of the challenge is to post these pictures every day and to try to keep them doing them every day. But I released a prompt list. I'm going to try to do it 2 weeks ahead. If you want to start to form a team and you want to kind of get some ideas battered around, you got to start creating on it. So I don't think that that's worth policing. I think that I think that everybody can do this however they want to, and I just want it to be fun, and I want to see what people do. Like 15 stories with the same prompt, I think will look very, very cool to look through everybody's, because we all see things different and we all have different experiences that all do. Like once you hear a word, though, here you are at the relatability again, because we've all experienced certain things different ways. So that's where you learn how to be a storyteller. And like that's why I wanted to make this like a storyteller's challenge, because some people can tell really good visual stories with no words at all. I definitely want those people to do it, and some people like to write. And I think that writers have a strong voice, and I think that we have a very I think we have our existence is very valuable in the universe that we occupy. So
absolutely. You
like
know, people, it's funny because people have such weird misconceptions about comics, but I've heard, the comment, I haven't heard it myself, but I've heard people say they get this comment like, oh, I write comics, or I make comics or whatever, and people are like, people write those things? Like
what do you think? Right.
where do you think they come from?
Right. Yeah,
So,
when you draw enough pictures, if you leave it overnight in the sunlight and the moon is full, the text and script will just pop up on it the next day. It's like invisible ink.
yes, exactly.
But no, it's just like we have a very cool section of the world as far as being comic book creators. And I think that we all push so hard that we forget how many different of us there really are. And so no, like if somebody writes comics and somebody is an artist and they find each other through this challenge, man, like
that'd be cool.
That's like creators Cupid. Like, I love it. So it's nice. Like, no, like get in there, mix it up, and be amazed at what you can do. Be amazed at what you can do with a quick story that has these have no foundations. Like these are pop-up tents. So like just go bananas, and go bananas 31 times.
I like that. I like the creators Cupid. Like you should do this in February and call it that.
Right? Okay. You know what? Like, maybe I should. Yeah.
You're like the creator team matchmaker.
Exactly. I'm like Chuck Woolery of comic book creators.
There you go.
I love it. But no, and also you will start to realize how quick you can come up with stories, and then you'll be able to tell your stories better because you're loose. Once you're loose, it's really this. I mean, look at the way Bruce Lee fought. You know what I mean? Like Bruce Lee was he was sound, but when he was in his bag, like he displayed how loose he was. That's what we want to do. Like,
yeah, totally.
Be fluid, like, and be able like to tell water. A bunch of stories. Be like water. How many stories can you tell? Like, we'll see. On the dishwasher thing, I was about to say, I was like, a dishwasher can be boring if you tell it for 6 days in a row. But if you put a piranha in that sink on day 7, all the first 6 days were worth it. So like, there's always a way to tell a story, and we've allowed our universe to get lazy at spots, and we blame it on other things. But it's just tell some stories, man. Like, and I want to have the best stories. Like, I'm not really crazy about the idea of losing on my own challenge. So,
wait, is there a point system?
Nope. The point is, I'm going to win. I'm joking, but no, I don't think that there's a point system yet. That might be something that I think about looking into. Like I said, this is kind of a beta test. I knew that I was doing this as I was telling you about it that day. As I was texting you, I was figuring out what this was going to look like. So that hadn't been very long. So we'll see what this looks like. If enough people are down with it, like, there's all kinds of cool stuff. Like we can make a story out of this. So it's like this can become anything. I don't know. I'm just so grateful that people think it's a cool idea because I thought it was a cool idea.
Well, early in my pretty early in my, I guess the second time I tried 100 Days of Making Comics, I was doing a comic called 12 Stories, and it was meant to be that there was a story on each one of the stories of a 12-story building. And
that's really cool.
And I may one day do it. I don't know. I've had this idea for forever, and I was thinking of making like a hip hop album of it originally, I think.
Yeah.
But and I wrote a lot of ideas. I came up with a ton of ideas, and Attack of the Lizard Brain. You can read that in on my website, donkeyjawprojects.com. And that was the first one. That was meant to be the first story of the 12.
Sure.
And what I found out was I wrote a bunch of stories, and some of them were really cool. They weren't like all finished necessarily, but they were ideas. But I realized I wasn't writing things that I like to draw. And that was a little bit of a problem, especially back then when I had only a couple mini comics under my belt. Now I have a decent amount more. And now I feel like I think that I'm going to come to a point in my art where I could make kind of any type of story visually interesting, or I would like to get to that point, I should say.
Yeah, of course.
Because, I look at comics that I love the art from, like McFarlane's a great example, even with Spawn. Like, he knows how to make a mundane scene look awesome. He knows how to, I mean, Spawn, a lot of it takes place in like alleyways with bums and garbage heaps all around. And somehow I want to be there. Like,
right.
So I don't know. I mean, there's ways to make things look cool. And that being said, though, like, it's not even just all about that. I love writing stories, and I've gotten to a point where I almost want to be more of a writer than an artist. I will never be able to get rid of the artist side of me, though, because I've been doing that for way too long. But
sure,
I've fallen in love with writing. I feel like it's, writing is like artist superpower. Like, like comics, I don't know. The art is great. It's obvious that it's great. It's like, but it's like, because like, you think of like Superman, like he's huge. He's got a big physique, he looks cool with his costume, but the power is inside, there's a story, and the story of whatever character, I don't know, like, again, going back to like the armature thing, like I just love the idea of creating a theme. And what I found out, here's getting a little bit back into some of the writing type things. What I found out for me is I started using story structures, like specific story structures. I started with the story embryo or the story circle by Dan Harmon, which has 8 sections around a circle, and it's divided in half one way and divided in half another way, and each half means different things. And it's just, it goes through a progression of a person in a certain state who goes through something and needs to change, doesn't realize they need to change. They come back up and they realize they need to change. They change, and now they're able to conquer something that they couldn't conquer before.
Right.
It's kind of something in that realm. So it's an easy way to be like, okay, these are 8 things I need to do in a story. Let me map out like 5 stories under those parameters,
using that formula,
and see if I like one of those. And then I can build from there. And now I have, this is the whole thing, the same thing with the reason why it's important when you draw a figure, draw the gesture first, then start putting
Yep.
form on, and then lastly put on the detail. Same
Yep.
thing with story, and the gesture is like the bigger overall like movement, the what makes it look awesome. And then for story, um, I like getting an idea of what the whole story is first.
Yep.
Um, and then I can build in all the cool parts. What I do is I'll do like that, the Dan Harmon thing, or I've been introduced to like I like Doug TenNapel's 3-act structure. I mean,
Yep.
there's many, 3-act structure is ancient, but Doug TenNapel has a way of putting it that has helped me. It just has kind of helped me a little bit, so I've been playing with that a little bit. um but that being said, like I like having a certain structure. You just kind of map it out, you get those 8 parts of the story circle, and then you take that and you're like, okay, now let me, what size book am I going to make this into, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but like
Right.
generally, like, is it going to be like a issue, or is it going to be like a small trade, or is it going to be like a big graphic novel or a series of
Sure.
graphic novels?
Right.
Okay, I know about the size. So say it's going to be a floppy. Okay, it's going to be somewhere around 20 to 30 pages. All right, I'm going to put like literally write a list 1 through 20, and now I'm going to write down using that format, the 8 pages. Now let me kind of divide that into smaller pieces, and then you go from page to page, and then you go into each page and you divide that into panels, and it's
Sure.
kind of a fun way to kind of map it out. You don't have to go that methodical. But another way you can do it is, say you like, okay, yeah, you want to do that, but you also have like 5 really interesting scenes that you're just like, while I was kind of free writing for a little bit, because I think free writing is a good thing to even inject into these kind of things. It takes some time to be like, okay, I really like this idea of this scene and this scene and that scene. Let's just do some free writing, and then you can find places to fit that into the story structure. But you're also focusing on character too, and that to me
Right.
is really where the heart of it is. You need a character to go through some kind of progression.
Right.
That might be a downward negative progression. It might
I was
be,
gonna say, yeah, it can be an ascent or a descent. They
yeah.
have to have a direction, though. Yeah.
And there needs to be, and I also like you said the word conversation a couple times. Like, if you have an idea, you want to bring across like this certain point at the end, or you want to at least discuss this certain point that you find interesting. You do it through characters,
Right.
and you have all the points against it, the points for it, and you have those characters kind of intersect, and a story comes out of it.
That's it. That's it. It's just that. Like that's the formula. Is pull them in and like serve it on the platter, and then you got to leave it. You can't keep messing with it. Like you can't stir the food once it's on the plate. You have to in you just got to invest in it. I guess that's the way it is. Like you have to invest in it as a creator, writer. I guess in particular, you have to invest in it, and then you have to allow people to invest in, like, to become invested in what you became invested in by texturizing your story. Like just the same thing. I got you on the gesture. Like you understand that. But now I got to put the cape on. Oh, y'all like red? Okay, I'll make a red costume. Oh, you like a little bit of like different textures on the costume? I got that too. But you got to get them on the. You have to get them on the gesture, because if you don't get them there, then nothing you do matters. Like, because then it's just, I'll write a Stephen King book. You can, but you can't. You can't, but you
Yeah.
can try. But it's
Yeah.
just there's no soul. I guess that's just it. It's like I want to do a lot of the structured stuff to try to learn how to do it, but man, it's like I'm a soul singer when it comes to writing. I grab this, I grab that, I shake it around, I put it on there, It turns orange. Once it turns orange, I'm like, okay, this is seasoned enough. And it's like, then it's on to the next step. And it's just like, I can't write that stuff down, but I can tell you what it feels like. And I can tell if you are where it needs to feel that way. You can see it when you read. And that's what reading books comes from is, okay, I've said it in quite a few books that me and Ronnie have done. I said it with Scott Serklin's book, like in the middle part of the second issue. I'm like, okay, this is where he was in his stuff right here. I'll try to keep it clean, but that's not what I said in my head, you know.
It doesn't bother me, but
you know, it's just like that's where a writer lives. Is like once they get in that groove. But that's on us as the reader. We have to become invested in it so that we know when to get fully involved in it. And so like I don't know, man. Like it's just a thing. It's like when you can draw and you can really draw. And it's like your stuff looks so good. But if you didn't write like you do, it's like nothing sticks to it. You know what I mean? Like we survived that influx of books that had this phenomenal artwork and the pages were all glossy. But after you flip through it a couple times, like you didn't really care if the cover came off because it was in the floor, and you didn't cherish it like you do some of your other books. You know, but where can we go from there as writers? Like how do we recapture that? And that's on us. Like and there's no beginners, guys. Like if you have a good story, you just have a good story. So don't stop it. Like don't say, okay, well, I gotta learn this before I tell my story. Nope, wrong. You're wrong. Like of all the things that people say, well, I can't tell you that this is right or this is wrong, but I can tell you how I do it. I can tell you if you don't tell your story and you have it, you did the wrong thing. You don't need anything. You don't need anybody to tell you how to tell your story. Figure that stuff out when you're telling another story.
Yeah.
Tell your story.
Yeah, tell your story. Yeah, for sure. And I like, you know, again, it really doesn't matter how you do it. I do like playing with structure, but you know, if you want to write a block of words, you know, that's totally cool too. And
Sure.
you know, I think something you were kind of talking about that I thought was interesting is it was kind of like it reminded me of actually a conversation I had tonight. I was, you know, making some food and stuff, and my aunt was there, and she was, you know, there doing stuff, and I'm like, we're talking about like what, like I asked her because she knows how to cook better than me. She's been doing it her whole life, and so I asked her like some questions and stuff, and then you know, I kind of thought, you know, it's kind of interesting, you know, because she was like saying, "Oh, I don't really measure stuff," and I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really either." Even if you get a recipe, like, you know, you just you know what you like, and you know, you look at the recipe, you say, "Okay, you need to do this, this, and this to get to this end point."
Right.
But I'm really like, I know enough that I'm just gonna put the amount I want in, you know, and I might even add a little bit of this that they didn't put in the recipe, you know, or take a little bit of this out, and you make it your own. And that's kind of how story is. Like you might go into it with like some kind of process or whatever, but like, I think you said it kind of earlier, that's like a starting point, you know. And then once you're in it, you're like in this mess, but you're finding your way out to a full whole piece and a full meal at the end of the day eventually. And it takes maybe a little experimentation, a little bit of playing with things, and trying things and discarding some things, you know. I think that process happens whether you start, you know, with the armature style or whether you start with the big block of writing, you know.
I was gonna say writing sometimes is having the big block dropped on you and having to get out of it. It's like, let me get out of this block and then I'll make it look like what I saw when I was inside of it.
Yeah.
So it's just, you just got to do it. And it's just like, there's a reason why a lot of recipes say a pinch of salt. They don't know how big your hands are. They don't know how, you know what I mean? It's just like, it's because it's like, get used to the idea of, some say salt to taste. That's again, there's no spoon in my cabinet that says to taste. You have to figure out what that is. What is to taste? Who are you writing for? Are you writing for an artist? What's their pinch of salt? You know what I mean? So you have to go by feel. Like, the artists have a lot of things that they have to accomplish. Like, the artists have a lot of perspective to keep consistent visually. If you're writing, if your art style is that in whatever you're writing, but writers, it's like, this is like words on a page, but you almost have to have a more abstract mind to like transmute this into these different things that it becomes before it's a finished product. Drafts, sketches. You have, sometimes you have to wait. If you do character development, you have to wait until your character has a look before you can write so far. So we are, you got to be an alchemist. Like, and if you have decided that you want to write, you're up for it. If you don't want to write, this is of no substance, and that's totally cool. But man, you have to let go of all this. I don't want to. You have to let go. You have to have an abstract mind. I guess that's the simplest way to put it, because I don't want to really crap on any processes, because we use them all at certain points. We use all of them, but you got to be ready to loosen up when it's time to write. You got to be ready to loosen up and apply all those steps, but then you got to make it taste good, because back to cooking, turkeys get dry quick. Turkeys will get dry quick. You can make a turkey and it looks great, but you will chew it, and then you will chew it and chew it and chew it, and that's not what you want. So when it's raw, start. When it's raw and you say, "Ooh, that's what I want to do," that's when you start writing. You might draft it again after that, but you'll get the gesture. You'll remember that moment that grabbed you, and if it grabbed you, it's going to grab somebody else.
Yeah. It's interesting too when you're talking about like soul, because I always, it's like one of those things, you kind of know what it is, but like when you see it, but you like, how the heck do you describe what it is?
You can't, right? Because it can be anything. Where are you? It doesn't have to be Sam Cooke. It might be Michael Flatley doing Riverdance. That might be soul to you, because that's what you resonate with. That's soul. Soul is resonating. Soul is, it's relatability. Like that. That's the most important word, I think, in writing. And it's not, like I said, it's not causes, and it's not messages. It's, hey, me too. And then immediately, like, oh, okay. It's like in sales, they always tell you that if you stand like a person that you're trying to sell something to, it will like relax them a little bit. Like, not to do it in a weird way, but if you're talking to somebody with your hands in their pockets and they have their hands in their pockets, it's a relaxed moment. Like, it's a moment where now you can make a joke that you wouldn't have made before, or it's a moment where you can be a little bit more gritty, because now I got you off guard, and that's what we do. That's what we do. That's what entertainment is like. I get you to suspend disbelief, and then I get you to invest in that UFO coming over those trees.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. It's interesting. Um, yeah, I don't know. I think you're right. Let's see. Free Jazz Filmmaker says, I'm more into the Ghibli style of storytelling than the Pixar style of storytelling. I do think putting plot first deducts from how much you get to spend time with the characters. Interesting.
Sure. Yep. So this must be a character driven. Jazz must believe in the characters first, and
Mm.
it's a whole different perspective than how I write a lot of times, because I write from situations. I write from the plot. I don't write from the characters, but neither are wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I originally wrote from the plot because that's all I could understand. You know, that's kind of what I thought story was. And now I am more interested in character driven. But one thing that, there's always these debates, are you a plotter or a pantser? Are you into character driven stories or plot driven stories? And when it comes down to it, the truth is, if you take a good story, or if you are writing something that's got good character, it also automatically has a good plot. Like
Right.
if it's done well, a good plot has good character. Like you can't really separate the two. Um,
Mm,
I mean, there have probably been experiments, and people have like there's like in indie type of like indie films and things like that, and
yeah.
different stories that kind of go into stuff where maybe it is almost all character. But there's a plot in there if it's any good. But it's there's a what is good too, so like there's definitely a debate to be had there. But that being said, like personally, I guess you have to know what your goals are with story, what you want to do, because to me, I like stories that move me. I like stories that are told within the kind of popular structure of telling stories, where a character goes through you know a progression, and you know learn something, or goes, either like the negative character arc, or the positive character arc, the change arc, the hero's journey, things
Right.
within that realm. I like those kind of stories, and that's the kind of stories I want to make.
Sure.
um
Right.
so if your goals, and a big goal with my stories is, like, I would say, if Jason, your probably big goal is kind of like this, you've said it so many times, this resonating
Yeah.
soul type of connection. I want that too. What I tend to think of more, and it's kind of within the same realm, is I want to move somebody, and I
Yep.
want to be moved when I see something. So I want there to be some kind of emotions attached, and
Yep.
I want my comedies to have a deeper, you know, heartfelt meaning to them. I want, my horrors to have some kind of meaning to it, and a little bit of humor. I want all
Sure.
these things. I like that mix, and I like, I guess, the holistic story. So everybody's got a different goal. So whether you like a Pixar style, or a Ghibli style, to each his
Yep.
own, and
Yeah.
you know, it's interesting though, what you're saying there, that you feel like plot deducts from characters. Um, I mean, there is certainly a lot of stories out there that are more plot than anything,
Right.
and the characters kind of fall flat. And I don't really love that kind of stuff. That's kind of what I'm talking about with the Image comic stuff. I feel like there needs to be more
Right.
meaning in there, more
You
depth.
can. Yeah.
you
Yeah. You'll get tired of the sizzle at some point. At some point, you will crave substance, and at some point, you will crave a story. Like, man, these characters look great. They would be awesome if they had a cool story. That's why people get bored of Superman sometimes. It's just he flies fast and he punches hard. I get that. I love Superman, and my thing is, if I ever need to write a Superman story, I'll write a Superman story. If I'm not happy with anything that exists with Superman, I'll just write it myself. Even if I just read it myself, that's cool, But it's just everything is a balance. You know what I mean? You can have a cool plot that will invest you in the characters, and you can have cool characters that can invest you in the plot. It's just how hard do you walk that tightrope, and how much do you invest in developing one and not develop the other? Because that's a time thing, Maybe it wasn't in the oven long enough. Both ways, So
Yeah. And like, yeah, that's what I was trying to say, like kind of in the end of my thing is, I get what you mean, by the plot thing, because there's plenty of stories out there, that are, and that's why I kind of wanted to qualify that at the end, because I know I realize, what you're saying for sure. I didn't really mean to put that in a negative light. But I'm just talking about it, and I think that plot driven is a great place to start, like we've been saying, there's starting points, and I think there's a lot of great starting points. I come up with ideas all the time, and I think that stream of consciousness is a great starting point. I think that random prompts, as Fogbreaker's challenge is kind of based around, it's crazy what can come as a story idea to you. A lot of times kind of mixing and matching, like say, like you see, anything that you could see, like the dishwashing thing is a thing, but so there's any common stuff, like you see, like, oh, there's people riding in a bus. I wonder what it's like to ride in a bus if you live in a world full of marbles, or who knows, like you could just come up with the craziest things, like like,
I love it,
or
man.
what is it like riding in a bus if you live in a sky city or something, that kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
There's a million ways to you could take any mundane thing and be, create something interesting. So you can mix and match things. You mix and match genres. Those are great places to start. Another great place to start is take one of your favorite stories, and maybe even a favorite story that people don't really get into so much, but you just love, or it could be a common one like Star Wars or something, and you make the same story but with your own elements in it. You can, and you can switch things up. You don't have to copy it wholesale, but maybe copy the structure of it, copy the idea of it, but do it in your own way.
Yep. That's it. I love it, man. This is a fun conversation to have, like, because we don't get a lot of shine as writers. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we're in this visual field that we're just like, we're like the drummers in a war. You know what I mean? Like, do you really, like, where are you? What are you doing here with the drum? You're like, hey, look, I'm keeping these guys motivated. Like, let me do what I do.
I only know like one bass player, and I know a lot of bands, and his name is Flea.
Exactly. That's it. Yep. And it's just like, but if you didn't have bass and Chili Peppers music, you would miss it. And like, writing is fun, guys, and it's like it's a challenge, but it's a facet that we should all at least try to exist in for a little bit if we want to tell good stories visually or with scripts. Just the same way as it's important to draw out some panels and tell a story that way. If you want to be a writer in the comic field, you have to know You got to know what it's like. You got to put the other guy's boots on the ground, especially if you want to write for other people. You can't just hand somebody a script that's got 64 pages of dialogue before it gets to the action without a reason. So, no.
Free jazz filmmakers. I was talking about Flea from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah.
I mean, there's other kind of, like, I've heard, I might know some names of some like jazz bass players, sort of, or maybe one or two. I don't know. I might kind of know. There is some things out there,
Right.
but like generally,
Sure.
when I think of bass player, I automatically think of Flea. Because he's the only like famous one, and he made some cool songs.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
I
Now,
can
know
name
exactly what
a lot of bands or songs that I like the bass in. I don't know the bass player's name though.
Exactly. Yep. That's it. No, it takes all parts, and if you've chosen to be a writer, we are like it's like on Starship Troopers. It was like the one field that nobody wanted to be in, but it was like they were like the brains behind like figuring out how to kill the bugs. And it's like that's what we can provide. Like, we're not the end all be all, but we can definitely build a better mousetrap. Like, we can build a better sandbox for people to play in. And
Totally.
if people have good sandboxes, man, we'll get cool stuff again. So it's all it takes, man.
No doubt. Well, we're both on the East Coast, and I'm sure we both need to get some shut eye at some point here.
Work
and
has to
hopefully,
happen.
hopefully the debate's over and you guys can be free. And
if it ain't, it is. I'll just turn the TV off.
There you go. So once again, man, where can people find you? Remember, the links are in the description and stuff like that. But where can people find you, man?
Fogbreaker Studios on Instagram. I do have a Facebook page. I'm not super duper active on it, but I'm always on Instagram. Fogbreaker Studios. I do have a YouTube channel. I'm getting ready to get serious about getting that going again. But me and Ronnie do a horror comic review, because that's still a new genre for me, on Fridays on Crimson Owl Comics. So check that out, Comics de la Muerte. And I don't know, I may pop up in other places, because we want to expand. We always want to expand as creators. So we always got to keep moving in the right direction. Oh, Peter's checking out. I'll see you in a minute, Peter, man.
Alrighty, cool. Yeah, so thank you, everybody in the chat. You guys rock. And definitely, I would say, if you're looking into wanting to get some writing, even if it's after this or initial challenge has gone on. I mean, he's saying he's going to do it quarterly. Even so, grab the prompts. Just start it when you need to start it.
Yeah,
and hit us up. We would be interested to see your find out about your progress and stuff.
Guys,
and just do it.
Marshall's, check out Marshall's old videos, because they helped me a lot when I was getting started. A lot of good entry level information, like, that's easy to digest. I don't mean entry level as in content, but digestibility. You know what I mean? Like, you can get a printer and you can. So
no,
it's
I do. I like to help people get there from the beginning.
Yeah, and it's like, no, like, Marshall, your stuff is awesome. You've always been available. If I had a question, even before we were before you started the Discord, I remember hitting you up on Instagram a couple times. You recommended a book on lettering to me way back, and I still use that book. So,
sweet.
No, it's like, get out and network, guys. Like, and networking does not mean devote your time to other people. It just means, like, meet people who are doing this, because we all have a different angle on it. So, like, look at me and Marshall. Like, me and Marshall, we talk a lot, and we don't really even know each other yet. But like, when it comes to comics, like, he's a good ear to bend sometimes. So find your ears to bend. Like, keep getting better, keep writing, and just keep writing.
Totally.
Write your way out of it, man. You always will. You just got to keep going. All right,
Yeah.
but thank you for having me on, man. I really, really appreciate it. Like, it's always fun to do this because it gets me comfortable on being on YouTube, and it also gets to, like, you know, it's like everybody gets to like talk about the challenge, and like maybe more people do it from this, which more
Yeah.
people will make it better, because that's kind of how we do things. So
Absolutely. Totally. And
y'all,
I always appreciate you, man, and you're always welcome on the channel for sure.
sweet man, I appreciate it.
Yeah. And just a little quick shout out because Frank's saying it. Salazar Art Nation. He's also known as Frank. He's got a video coming out tomorrow, so go check his YouTube out. The Artcast. I don't. What is it? How's it go? I can't believe it's not the Artcast or whatever. It's a cool show. Usually Anna's
You guys
on
got to
this.
get
I don't know who
Fabio
he
to
has
do a
tomorrow.
commercial for you.
What's that?
So they got to get Fabio to do a commercial for him, like the old "I can't believe it's not butter" commercials.
There you go. All right, guys. Thank you,
All right,
everybody. You
y'all be
all
good.
rock,
Take care.
and we'll talk to you next time.
Take care.